Cameron Crowe and Caroline Farmer here. We're going to talk about Caroline's Coal Valley experience and stories. But first things first, if you've never watched one of these videos before, I'm going to give you the context. So coming up on, actually, no, we passed it. So 3 months ago, I wrote this blog post. And the point of the blog post was basically to reflect on my time at my high school, Coal Valley Christian School. But it wasn't just my high school. I went there for 13 years, kindergarten through senior year. And when I left, no complaints whatsoever. I was happy about all my, Christian upbringing. But years afterwards, where I got more life experience, got exposed to more ideas, and had a lot of personal growth, I realized, I became no longer a Christian, but also I reflected on a lot of the things from Coal Valley, and I realized that a lot of them I thought were harmful to me, but especially harmful to a lot of other people. And I felt like that was a perspective that wasn't really publicly available, and I felt like I needed to get that off my chest, and that people needed to hear that point of view as well. So I wrote a blog post detailing basically all this stuff and what I thought was problems and examples and memories. And it felt like something I needed to do, but I didn't really think, I thought maybe a couple people would get kind of upset about it, but it wouldn't really make a big splash. Not a lot of people would read it, but it blew up. After like dozens of people contacted me, angry at me, felt betrayed, felt like I had, everyone that I cared about, I basically destroyed them by criticizing the school. And then all the people that said, thank you so much for saying it. It needed to be said. I didn't know anybody else felt this way, but here's my story. And most of those stories were worse than mine. And after probably 20 or 30 of those stories had been messaged to me, I realized there needed to be a place to talk about it. So I created a Facebook group called the Coal Valley Support Group. And it's a closed group for all the people that need to get something off their chest as well. So it's not letting everybody in. So they don't have to be in debate mode or defend themselves. It's a sympathetic audience where you can say what you need to say. And that group grew and grew and grew. And now it's 153 people of students, parents, and past staff, and some current staff actually. And there's probably been 50 or 60 stories, and some of them have been about rape, some of them have been about attempted suicides, all kinds of abuse, and just a lot of terrible stuff that I had no idea about. I had assumed a lot of these things were bad for people, and maybe I knew one or two stories, but it was far worse than I expected. So we realized we needed to do something, and we upped our game and created coalvalleyspeaks.com to be the website for all of our public content. And a bunch of people like Caroline done interviews to try that many of them from the support group, but decided that they wanted their story to be public so anybody could see it, not only the people in that support group, but also all the Coal Valley administration and parents and whoever that maybe is interested but not in the support group. And it didn't take long for us to realize it wasn't enough to just get this stuff off our chest, but we wanted to be a part of the solution. We realized a lot of these problems were still happening, and that we couldn't just sit idly by and now that we knew that all this was happening, just kind of be like, well, sucks for them. We wanted to make it prevent some of these things from happening for current students and future students. So we decided we were going to do a joint statement. We were going to categorize all these problems and the theme, put them in categories and summarize the themes and make recommendations on how to make some of these things better. And especially recommendations that don't require Coal Valley to change its beliefs, because that's not going to happen. We want this to be practical and common sense. So we spent over 20 people spent over 100 hours combined making this document. And it's got a whole lot of categories, and it goes in depth and uses direct quotes from stories. And this is really good stuff. So we've been trying to talk to Coal Valley about this since it was written over 2 months ago. And they only recently acknowledged us, but they have shown no interest in talking to us as a group. And we continue to try to talk to them, to work together with them, and we're hoping that changes. that is the context. So, Caroline, first question is, what of all of this did you see for the first time? Because I think you kind of came to this a little bit later than others. You know, was it the blog post? Was it the joint statement? How did you kind of get? What made you aware of this, and what kind of went through your head when you were seeing this stuff?
Well, first of all, I found out about it through Tara. Tara and I are best friends. We've been best friends since 8th grade. And she made me aware of it. And from there, she started telling me about it. Oh, man.
What did you think? What did you think when you heard about it?
When I first heard about it, part of me went, like when she first told me, it's like, oh, there's kind of this movement going on. Oh, really? Because, well, let me check my sound all the way up. Okay. I thought, oh, well, like you said, I thought I was the only one going through, well, I wouldn't say going through, experienced something bad at Cold Valley or something negative. As I started hearing the stories, reading the stories through the joint statement, I haven't gotten through all that yet, but
pretty long.
Yeah, quite a bit. And I've mostly watched the interviews, and I think those have had the most impact. I've heard some conflicting accounts, and if I'm going to be entirely honest here,
Yeah, please be.
Oh, if I'm going to be entirely honest here, it's like I feel somewhat torn because I did have a lot of good experiences in Cold Valley, and I met a lot of great people there, and I experienced a lot of good things, and I can't forget that. I'd be remiss if I did. However, like I am trying to look at things objectively, but at the same time, I know that there are problems that need to change. And I know my story, most of it, but more about that in a minute. I know most of my story. I've told my sister's story. I talked to her about it, and I asked her if I could represent her a bit in here. She said yes.
Sorry, whose story was that? Is that?
My sister's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, just nervous. And I didn't see for myself a whole lot of abuse going on at the school. I didn't actually hear of a lot of these things going on until after I left. And from there, I feel like the stories just kind of grew and grew, and I kept hearing more and more. And now I've been hearing like a shit ton of them in the movement. And I just thought, holy God, like this. I've heard of conflicting accounts of like, are all these stories true? But at the same time, it's like, well, so many people are complaining and letting out things that have been bottled up for years. It's just like, damn, it's like, it's worse than I thought. And like I said, I'm trying to remain objective because I wasn't there for a lot of these stories. But at the same time, I'm here to keep an open mind, share my perspective, because that's the only point of view I can really speak from, for the most certain. And I just want to get to the truth of things. And I want to understand as much as I can. And just, good God, I can, I didn't see a whole lot of this abuse going on for myself, but based on my experiences, I can see a lot of this being believable. So like I said, I'm trying to keep an open mind. So
who have you, I mean, you don't have to name names, but like what kinds of people are saying, like basically claiming these stories aren't true?
I think that's something I'd rather not mention.
Okay.
It hasn't been that many people Well, and these people haven't been saying um, like they've been hearing like, okay, I heard that this story wasn't true, or I heard that something else about this story came out that like proved that what a few of these people were saying were false. But um, I, uh, I don't know. At the moment, I'm just kind of not sure what to believe, but at the same time, I do see some of this stuff as believable.
What do you think that some of the people like? What would be their motivation for lying?
I I don't know. And in my experience, I think I, I don't really know. I already have trust issues as it is, so I'm like, I I wouldn't. It's not that I'm saying that they're lying. It's
Yeah.
just this is what I've heard.
Yeah.
So like I said at the moment, I don't know what to believe. But then again, I think a lot of these stories are very believable. And just because I wasn't there doesn't mean it didn't happen. And
Right.
um, I don't know. I guess I'm
Yeah.
just here to try and find out the truth and present my side. Like I said, that's
Totally.
yeah. And I mean, I have read people's stories, and based on some of the interviews I've seen, the interviews I think have been, like I said, the most impactful for me, because I feel like it's the closest thing to people talking to me.
Right.
So like I watched Mr. Worth's interview, and I thought his was very compelling. Um, and it's just, well, I don't see any reason for him to lie. He was very trusted in the school by a lot of people, I thought. And so, I mean, I didn't know him that well, but I know a lot of other people did.
Hmm.
So, like I said, I'm not saying I'm saying they're lying. I'm just saying
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
just things I've heard. That's all,
Right.
you know. So,
So let's talk about some background. So like when did you start at Coal Valley? How many years were you there? Um, give me the highlights. Give me the like Coal Valley resume.
okay. So, oh, this actually kind of launches me into more story. Actually, I've done a lot. Um, did I answer the other questions adequately, by the
Yeah,
way?
no, that was great.
Okay. Um, so, uh, my family, my parents and my sister and I, we moved here from Nevada in 2003, and we attended Cole from 2003 to 2005. And so let's see. Uh,
So that would have been like eighth grade to 10th grade
eighth to ninth for me.
okay.
And for my sister, freshman to sophomore. And then we left to attend Centennial High to finish out high school.
Got it.
So, uh, so that's kind of so I don't know. I just start monologuing from here about
Well,
what's
yeah, let's start with
not good at interviews, as you can see.
no, I mean most people haven't done an interview like this before. It's totally cool. Um, so what are some of the noteworthy memories that you have of Coal Valley?
Okay. Well, so first off, we were introduced to Coal Valley through Mark Farmer. That's apparently a very popular name around Coal Church. And Mark Farmer, my uncle, is my uncle and my dad's younger brother. And so that's how we got introduced there. And let's see. That alone, I think, gave us a little bit of a good in. And something else noteworthy of like when we were being enrolled in the school, basically where we were in the family was like we were just trying to get settled up here. My parents were getting new jobs. We were renting a house out in Meridian for about a year before my mom and dad got their separate houses because they were in the process of divorcing that year. And they want to focus on their jobs and getting us enrolled in school. And so I was surprised that my sister and I were being asked to be interviewed by at least the vice principal. At least I remember that. And me as in my upbringing, I was always a kid who had no say in anything. Uh, we were the ones that, just stayed shut up unless we were spoken to. And who gives a hell about, who gives a hell, that's a new expression, who gives a damn about our opinions. So I was pleasantly surprised by why would the vice principal want to interview us, but they did. And they just said, tell us a little bit about yourself. I said some things I like to do. And that was about it. And like, I seemed to give good enough answers, I guess. And they interviewed my parents. And funny thing about this is that my parents, since they were in the process of getting divorced, I heard a few conflicting accounts, and buckle in for this because there are a lot of conflicting accounts in this one story. So lots of chaos. Okay. So buckle up. As far as I understand, my dad was still trying to get my mom to not go through with the divorce. And so when they were interviewed by the school, they, to my knowledge, said they were still married. So I guess we looked like the little nuclear family. We had a good in with my Uncle Mark. We seemed like a good little family, fit all the conservative viewpoints. We seemed to have a good in, and we were accepted. And first few months into going there, I felt very welcomed by Coal Valley. And I still think that's true to this day, at least from my experience. There were a lot of good people that I met there. And I still believe that. And in fact, to give a little disclaimer, the story I'm about to tell, I have a beef with really 3 people that I know of. And even that is a lot of hearsay because in all involved situations, the arts of my parents' divorce, I see room for a lot of people to lie or, blame shift or whatever. So, again, I'm just going off of what I've heard and what I've seen. That's it.
Yep.
So a lot of fragments to this puzzle that will probably never be completed. Anyway, but so when we were first enrolled at Coal Valley, I felt welcomed. And that's a big deal because the school we came from, a place called Capital Christian Center in Carson City, we were looked at like we had 3 eyes with everything we did because we got out of 4 years of homeschooling where we were isolated from the world as much as my dad could possibly isolate us. And we had to learn what the world was like off the cuff, and we didn't make many friends there at Capital Christian Center. And so when we came to Cole, we were pleasantly surprised by how welcomed we were there. And that's a lot of my experience with Idaho in general, actually, is just feeling so welcomed by everybody and making us feel like we were equal human beings and we could walk alongside them and just grow into human beings instead of being the little aliens that we felt like, at least from my experience. And then that was where I started to make real friends, like Tara. I couldn't believe that I actually started making friends and, people that I had things in common with, and I wasn't alone anymore. And I made friends among teachers and students alike, which was also a big shocker because I was kind of indirectly taught in my youth to be afraid of authority figures. And as long as I'm going to name names here, it's going to be only for the good things, like Mr. Sacht, Miss Melhoff, just to name a few. Mrs. Brandon too. Good teachers that, yeah, I had good experiences with. Yeah, just making a bunch of good friends and good acquaintances, and I finally felt like part of a community, and so that was kind of the beginning. Um, so I guess those are some starting noteworthy memories, if that answers your question.
Yeah, and then where did things go from there? You said that there was a divorce involved.
Yeah. Oh God, that's a monster. So um, I often describe this time as one of the most brutal times of my youth. Um, so my parents divorced. Um, I guess I should first describe a little bit of what was happening at home, and then because that spilled over into the school, so it does relate. Um, as the year got busier and busier with all the homework loads and whatever, my dad insisted on being more involved in our schooling. And what I mean by that is he insisted on doing our math homework for us. And he was also in the process of trying to make mom stop leaving him because the divorce was being finalized, but from my understanding, he was still trying to kind of manipulate her feelings to keep her with him. And she was still kind of going back and forth ish, but things just got worse, and like the divorce was just bound to happen. And there was absolute chaos in the home. Our parents were fighting. My sister and I often found ourselves alone with dad for hours as he took out all the blame on us. And he tried to get us to bring mom back for him to clean up his mess. And we had to, on top of him screaming at us for all of that and verbally and emotionally abusing us for that, that was the year that he started really verbally abusing us and calling us every name under the sun. On top of that, we had to sit in the kitchen for hours as our math work, and of course, I didn't learn a thing. He got me good grades on the homework. I flunked the tests, and next week the nightmare started all over again, as well as all the fighting and all that, and having it all taken out on us. It was just a nightmare, a living hell from week to week. And as my dad was trying to get my mom back, someone else was not far behind us. And by someone else, I mean his then girlfriend. He was sneaking her up behind us so he could have his cake and eat it too. And my sister actually took a call from her calling the house for some godforsaken reason. And then she told my mom, and my mom said she has to go if you want to stay with me. And so he kept flip-flopping between that back and forth. And then the girlfriend moved back to Nevada for a while, but they weren't really over. And so, but my mom was still leaving because she'd had enough. And dad would threaten us by saying, if you don't get your mom back, then I'm going to move up my girlfriend. It's just like, oh, wow. Looking at all of us as expendables.
That's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So that happened week after week. And finally.
So what was it like at school during all that? Was school like your safe place or not really?
No. At first it was neutral. Yeah, I was going to relate that to school. Sorry. At school, of course we had to deal with too much homework, which was always a stress. I mean, I know that too much homework can be, issued at any school, and I did experience that at other schools. But I remember some students complaining about that, but nothing was really done about it. I had a few friends like like Tara, and I told her about what was going on, but what could a couple of 13-year-old girls do about the situation?
Too much homework, you mean?
Sorry?
By the
Oh, about
situation?
my home life.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Mhm. But for the most part, it was just a neutral place. Like, I felt like I couldn't tell anybody. I thought I'd be inviting more chaos into the family if I did.
Because somebody would want to get all the details and get involved
Sorry?
somehow.
I'm
Did,
sorry, what's the question?
did you think, why did you think it would cause more chaos?
Um, just getting more people involved that wouldn't really understand the situation or make it worse somehow by not understanding. Plus, my sister and I were scared to talk to anybody else in power for help, because my dad would also, we've seen him do it before, where he would, charm authorities or bully authorities from to leave us alone. And then once they'd be out of the picture again and we'd be beyond help again, then he'd, get his revenge on us by verbally and emotionally abusing us again. So I don't know. I just thought, no adults have been able to help us before. I thought, what could change now? So I stayed shut up about it for the longest time. And sorry, I'm a little tired, so my head's swimming a little bit.
Okay.
Things finally got worse when around that winter or spring, winter of 03 to spring of 04. That was the first time in my life where I had contemplated suicide. And I even thought of a few ways to do it. I thought of things like choking myself, but then I thought, I'm too scared to try, and I don't think I'm strong enough. I thought of, I occasionally was eyeing the kitchen knives in the butcher's block in the kitchen, and thought, what if I slit my own throat right in front of Dad and traumatized him for a change?
Whoa.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah. I thought, God, I got so desperate that I even imagined myself flinging myself in front of a moving car out on the streets or in the parking lot of Coal Valley or something. I even thought of looking up at the tallest towers of the building at Coal Valley. I thought, what if I made it up there at one point to see how high of a drop it would be if I suddenly jumped? And but then it got me to, it reminded me of all the things, of all the reasons I wanted to live. I finally had friends in my life. I had the few family members I have in my life who don't want me to die, people who actually love me. I wanted to live for them. I thought, I want to live one day to be a best-selling novelist, and won't be able to write anything if I'm dead. And I wanted to outlive Dad's abuse, to beat him. And I thought, if I die, or if I tried to die and I failed somehow, I didn't want to endure a long recovery or, live the rest of my life maimed or something. And I was admittedly afraid of, I was told my whole life that suicides don't get into heaven. I still don't know what I think about that. I'm still a Christian to this day, and there's still a lot about Christianity that I'm rethinking for myself and I'm unsure of. That's a whole separate rant. I also thought of, when it came right down to it, I thought I didn't really want to die. What I really wanted was just for the pain to stop. And so that's what prompted me to speak out at the school. And that brings me to the school counselor at the time. And at first I thought she was just a math tutor, because I met her fall of 03 in a study hall, and she started trying to help me with my math homework. It was like she picked me out. I didn't ask for help. She just came to me. She just looked at me and knew that I needed help somehow without me saying a word, and reached out to me. I thought, oh, wow, she's very kind and compassionate. And hey, God, I'm actually learning some things about math. And who knows, maybe I could try and finish my math homework before I got home. No, but at least it was an honest effort. And she presented herself as someone who was safe, but I wasn't entirely sure of yet. I wanted to get to know her just a little bit more. So then she disappeared for a while, and then I didn't see her until spring of '04. And she was checking up on me. Like, we bumped into the hall a few times. And finally, she checked up on me to at least see how I was doing in my math class. And God, I had a bitch of a teacher. Anyway, but finally, what a conversation that started out as a simple, hey, how are you doing in your math class kind of thing, snowballed into a full-blown confession. And I told her just about everything. And she got me to really confide in her. And I couldn't take it anymore. I knew my family needed help. My sister needed help. I needed help. We were both miserable. We needed someone in power to help us. And I thought that this school counselor might be it. And after I included everything that I wanted to tell her, she told me at the end of it all that she had to tell the principal and the vice principal. Well, I didn't know that going in to this conversation. I thought I was confiding in her, not the principals. So what the hell are they doing in this? But I did see, I didn't entirely freak out when I first heard it, because I thought, well, if my parents are getting divorced, which they were, well, they would need to know about the status change and, practical things like that. Oh, my mom got a separate address and my dad's moving into a new house to buy and whatnot. So they're going to need to know practical things like that. And so I figured, well, one way or another, whether I say anything or not, it's going to get out. So I thought, well, okay, it's out, and I want to trust her. And I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, the principals could get involved to actually help us, and actually be concerned for our well-being, and get involved to say, does this family need help? We are a Christian school. We are, as Christians, called to love, kind, and understanding. Maybe they could help. But I still did have this little bad feeling deep inside that told me something was going to go down. I didn't know exactly what yet, but that was my gut feeling. So she told me that she was going to go tell the principals. She did, and the principals talked to my parents. So yeah, we weren't safe at home, my sister and I. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as we are concerned, me and my sister, the 3 people in the administration at the time proved to us that we couldn't feel safe at the school either, at the very least around them. And
why was that?
Sorry?
Why was that? Why couldn't you feel safe around them or at the school?
Oh, I'm getting into that.
Oh, okay.
Well, so the principals told my parents, and this is a lot of where the story really gets muddled for me, because this is where a lot of hearsay comes in. In fact, I discussed this with a bit with my sister today, and how do I start this? So first, my dad said that it sounded like we were threatened with being expelled because, and I heard either from my mom or my dad that they didn't trust them because they didn't tell the truth about their divorce. Well, another interesting thing to note is that I told the school counselor about my dad's girlfriend. and how he was moving her in after my mom left. Well, the principals apparently didn't like that, and said that basically what I think it boiled down to was not only did we not feel safe around really any of the adults, we felt like my mom, my sister, and I were being punished for my dad's actions, because the principals didn't like the fact that my dad was living with a mistress. And they didn't seem to care anymore about whether or not my sister and I were being abused. They cared more about my dad and his girlfriend. Oh, they're living in sin. And I heard, at least from my dad, that like either my dad or my mom or both or something like that. It's so long ago, I don't remember all the details. Heard that like the principals wanted to expel us because they were worried about me and my sister being a bad influence on the other kids at Coal Valley. I thought, bad influence? Us? Like, what did we do? You know, we didn't do anything. We don't like the idea of dad and his girlfriend moving in together. But the divorce needed to happen. But my dad would follow through on his threat and move his girlfriend up. And why are we being punished for this? And it seemed like that's what we were. We were being punished for something we didn't even do. And so to my understanding, my mom talked to at least the vice principal from what I heard. And I don't remember all the details of what went down in that conversation. But it sounded like she was able to convince him to let us stay another year, and we did. And another threat we heard was that if my dad didn't marry his girlfriend, then he would expel us, that we would be expelled. And yeah, so that's about it for the divorce. And the aftermath of that, I felt betrayed by the school counselor. I felt betrayed by the principals. I also didn't know who or what to believe. The few things that I knew is that the counselor made me feel betrayed. She ratted me out to the authorities. And she was supposed to be someone who was supposed to make me feel safe, to make kids feel safe. And after that, whenever I'd see her in the hall, she'd act like nothing happened. And I'm like, no, something did happen. And you're trying to act all, oh, hi, how are you? And I'm just like, fine, zoom. I'm off to class, or just get a clue and piss off, or I don't know. You know, it's like, you want to stay buddy pals with me in hopes of getting more information out of me. No, I learned my lesson. I'm not going to. Same one for the principals. But at the same time, I still had to acknowledge that we heard a lot of this from dad. And my dad is, and I don't care if he sees this, he's a chronic liar. He's an abuser. He's a chronic liar. He has many things. That's its whole separate rant. But so that being said, I don't know how much he embellished on or lied about or what was actually true. But I heard a little bit of it, I think, validated from my mom, and I was able to trust her a lot more with what was being said. And it seemed like both parents were, their stories were somewhat aligning. So I felt like I was able to trust some of it. And from then on, I never trusted the principals or the counselor again.
Why do you think they shared all that? Why? So you're not the first person to say that, you know, basically confidence was breached. Like if you told anybody anything, like the whole school would know about it. Not only, and certainly like the administration would hear about it, but many times teachers would actually tell all the other students in class when something bad happened. Why do you think that they have this culture of like telling everybody whatever anything happens, no matter how sensitive or confidential it is?
Well, first of all, as far as to my knowledge, that didn't happen with us. As far
Hmm.
as I knew, it was kept between all the people that were directly involved. And the rest of the people that knew us at Coal Valley, as far as I knew, whether they knew about it or not, they treated us mostly the same. And I was afraid of that happening at first, but to me, it didn't really seem to happen. Um, I did tell a few other people about it, and they didn't know what to believe, because I think they were pretty biased towards believing the ones in charge. But for the most part, I felt like they treated us mostly the same. Uh, let's see, at least about the divorce. But to answer your question, I think something I've typically noticed in a lot of churches is that um, they do kind of have a habit of telling everybody in hopes that people will get together and pray for them. And that can be both a good and a bad thing, because some people do get together and like pray for them or want to do something else good or something like that, etc. And I'm talking about like church experience in general for the most part. But mostly they just pray, which is not enough. But I think that's one reason. Another reason is like if churches want to get especially judgmental and pretentious and ostracizing, which I have seen churches do. And I have heard of stories like that in Coal Valley. God, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why any other reasons they do that other than to like to set an example, to exile them, say you're not part of the group anymore.
Make sure everybody measures up.
I suppose so. I um, I don't know, just like if one person is not fitting the mold, then they were to be made an example of. I didn't see a whole lot of that at Coal while I was there, but I have heard stories from joint statement, have seen examples kind of behavior in other churches. A good example that comes to mind for me that I've heard is I saw the interview with Lauren Lawfer and Hannah Rowe. I didn't know Lauren. I know Hannah was kind of a brief acquaintance when we were all in the class together, but my God, Lauren's story, everything she went through. I still don't know all the details, but I saw the interview and and how does the school respond? Oh, let's just pray for them. And then for the most part, she just was, I guess, how did she word it? She became ignored by everybody at the school. And I thought, oh, how generous. You're going to get together and pray for her, to say a few seconds of prayer and to sound spiritual, and then, not think about them anymore, to get them off your mind, to make yourself at ease, because isn't that what's the most important here? It's not like she's hurting or anything. I thought, I've seen so many examples of that in other churches too. Not all of them, but I see so much of that, and I think there. If these other stories of at Coal Valley are true, I mean, and there's so many people handing in their complaints and everything, Coal and many other churches just don't equip their followers with the with the right attitudes to be able to help other people in need. How do churches typically respond to crises? Oh, let's pray for you, or tell this person to pray harder, or read the Bible more often. And I've reached that brick wall so many times as I've tried to bring my problems to other Christians in churches, and they would hand me these BS lines, and it's like, okay, I don't think you mean ill, but this is still stupid, and it's still not helping.
And why isn't prayer enough?
Okay, well, the thing about prayer is, and I'm still learning a lot about that too, I'm told that prayer has power. And I do believe that to a degree. Prayer can be powerful, but the thing is, with prayer should come effort. You can't just tell somebody, I'll just say a few seconds of prayer for you and hope that makes you feel a little bit better. I mean, that's like that's the Christianese equivalent of a bandaid. And that's not enough. A bandaid is not enough over a big gaping wound where you're losing a lot of blood. Kind of a gory,
that's a good metaphor.
Nice. But, prayer, I want to believe prayer is powerful. It's just, like I said, there needs to be effort behind it. You need to actually try to get to the root of the problem. You need to actually get involved in people's problems. I mean, sure, these people are still going to solve these problems for themselves either way, but you can at least try to help other people. That's why if other people come to me, and I have to keep in mind, well, I'm a Christian. Well, what do I think Jesus wants me to do? Well, I think he wants me to talk to these people. I think he wants me to, and I think that I should ask questions, get all the information I can, offer all the advice that I can think of that comes to mind, and just offer any solution I can. And just try and get involved and help. I mean, and let me pray for you that's just, what's the word? Aggravating, frustrating. Again, the brick wall.
Right.
That you're never ever going to hear me say, let me pray for you, or, just read the Bible or pray about it more often. Because that's the Christianese equivalent, as far as I'm concerned, of telling people to piss off. And I don't believe, I still believe there's God. I still believe there's Jesus. And I don't think that they would want us, or he, whatever. I don't think God would want, well, it's a bit confusing, don't you mean? Don't you know? But I don't think God would want us to wuss out of problems like that. And again, a lot of these Christians mean well when they say, let me pray for you, or I advise read the Bible and things like that. But it's like, okay, you may be trying to help, or so you think, but you're not. You got to do more than that. And I've met so many Christian people that are like that can help that way. And I believe that's what Jesus wants us to do.
Totally. So what it, so I'm going to go into some of the last questions I have, but if there's anything else you wanted to mention first, go right ahead. Do you have anything else on your list you wanted to cover?
Are we just about out of time?
Yeah. Yeah, we are. And I've got a couple more questions for the wrap up, but if there's any topics we haven't, touched on yet, now would be the time.
Well, I suppose not really anything else of note. I did notice like certain things about the Bible that were skipped over in classes. I remember my sister went through a few things, and she was ridiculed for it for a while publicly. Um, and it goes into the whole thing of like, women are, these seductive temptresses and men can't help themselves. It kind of buys into that. It also buys into like ostracizing people that they just don't like this one person who was deemed an outcast for really no good reason. He just was, and she was associating with him, and she got ostracized for that as well. God, we might have to just go for a round two of this, maybe. Uh, like, so yeah, she agreed with me that she feels like she faced a lot of fake Christians that turn people away from God and give him a bad name. And I agree. I can't say that again. I can't say that for everybody at Coal Valley. I just can't. A lot of good people I met there have been the majority. So I don't want them to suffer for what a few people did. But those are just some things that she went through, some things that I heard or witnessed, I guess. I don't know, maybe we might have to go for round two with extra points that might be worth sharing. But I think the divorce was really the big one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's most important to get your personal stories out there than kind of commenting on other people's stories. But so my last questions are: what advice do you have for the current administration if they find themselves in another situation similar to the one you're in? Like, what would you have wanted them to have done differently?
You mean for us?
Yeah, maybe this divorce situation where you felt betrayed and like you couldn't share with them because they were gonna hold it against you, or they were gonna punish you for what your dad was doing, or any of that stuff. If they found themselves in a similar situation, what would be the right way to handle
that? Well, for starters, if you have a problem with, I guess I'll more say from my situation, if they had a problem with my dad and his new lifestyle, take it up with him. Take it up with him alone. Don't punish the other parties involved, like the kids or the other parent, for what the, I guess, negative parent is doing. First and foremost, at the risk of sounding cliche, think of the children. Really do. Think of the kids. Think about what they're going through. You are a school, after all. Think of them first. You are supposed to be a safe environment for them. And first, think about what they need. Think about what they're going through. Offer any help and compassion to them that you can. And seriously take that into account. And don't just immediately ostracize them for things they didn't even do, especially if these kids are reaching out for help. A kid reaches out for help and they're like, oh, well, you're a bunch of sinners, so we're just going to tell you to piss off as best we can. And if we can't get you to piss off, well, we're just going to ignore you, I guess. That's at least how I felt. Take into account all the individuals in the situation. Think about what each person needs. Get to the bottom of what's going on, but listen to each and every person that is in the situation. Let them have their say. Actually, just get involved to just help them, not hurt them, not ostracize them, not exile them. I mean, and if you, I guess I'll be perfectly blunt about this. Don't be a Pharisee. Don't be the Pharisees, because that's what they did. They ostracized people that they simply didn't like. And they're the people that Jesus got mad at. I don't want to sound judgmental with that, but I mean, isn't this the kind of behavior that Jesus was upset about?
Totally.
So just think about the different parties involved, help them as best you can, and just be a beacon of hope and compassion and safety, especially for the kids, because it's a school and that's where they go.
And what advice would you have for a kid in Coal Valley who's going through something similar to what you were going through right now, maybe?
Oh boy. Huh. I don't want to just say hang in there. I want to give a little bit more than that. This is kind of a hard question for me to answer. Just keep an eye out for who are the most trustworthy adults that you think of. Take time to get to know them, and realize that if you're going through something that I did, none of this is your fault. You need help. If you're thinking about suicide, don't do it. There is hope, and no matter what the adults around you do, none of this is your fault. Don't blame yourself. All you want and all you need is help and compassion, and that's what any child deserves, and that child would be no exception, I guess.
Totally. That's great advice. Well, Caroline, thanks a ton. Thanks for sharing your story, and I'm sure it wasn't easy to do, but you did a great job, and I think this could really help out with the cause, and any potentially students that maybe are going through something similar. This could be what they need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.